This is a gear progression guide. I decided to make this to help you better understand the gear progression from level 1, item level 1, gear level 1, all the way to level 80 in V Rising. So at the start of the game, depending on where you're coming in on this video, when you're looking this up, you just do these quests at the top left. Eventually, you will get the simple workbench. It'll have you build one of these, I think, if I remember this right. Either way, you'll get one of these built. And from here, you get started with your gear, right? And you can, right out of the gate, you can make bone maces and stuff, and you can also make copper stuff as well. You'll also have in here plated bone armor, and then there's Night Stalker gear as well that uses leather, and then there's, after these things, there's these merciless versions. So there's like the merciless copper set of weapons, the merciless Night Stalker gloves, and all this. And the way that this is going to work is you can find these recipes out in Farbane Woods, just randomly in chests and things like that. Or you can go to a research desk that you can build. If you open up the build menu, build over here on B. It's somewhere in here, research, and then research desk. And you can use 50 paper to discover a random tech. Well, eventually, if you get all the techs, or at least keep getting techs, you'll just randomly get these pieces. The merciless armor and the merciless weapons. Now, you'll also be able to get options for some, jewelry as well. You're doing that. But your next step will be to get iron. But in order to get iron, it's either going to suck, or if you get literally just one of these merciless ones, you just need one of these merciless ones, you're good, right? Then you can mine iron. It's high enough item level to mine iron. And the copper, it'll say it's too weak to blow up iron. And that's relevant to something we'll get to in a minute, but I'm just trying to let you know now before we move on to the next part of this. Another thing is V-Blood bosses. That's also where you're going to start going beyond this first step. First step, it kind of just hands it to you. After that, it's going to come down to V-Blood bosses. So some of these V-Blood bosses will unlock different things. Rufus the Foreman, for example, he'll give you the woodworking bench. This guy, if I recall correctly, is at the Bandit Armory, if you really care to not just track it yourself. And you'll be able to make the woodworking bench. This is where you can get crossbows. Woodworking bench will give you crossbows all the way to the end of the game. It's just a matter of getting the recipes. So you don't have to make any additional stations for the crossbows, but you will for other things, and we'll get to that in just a sec. So you'll be able to do the Hunter's Crossbow right out of the gate, and then Merciless Hunter's Crossbow if you find the recipe for it or get it from spending paper at the research desk. So then after that armor and that crossbow or those weapons, your next step will be Quincy the Bandit King. So Quincy the Bandit King is level 37. He can be found at the Bandit Stronghold right here on the map. And Quincy will unlock the smithy and the tailoring bench, which is what you'll need to go to the next level. He'll also give you the recipe to make iron ingots, as well as iron weapons and hollow fang armor. Now, in order to fight Quincy, you have to break into his citadel, which has walls or gates or whatever in front of it. Sorry about that. And in order to do that, there's two ways. You can take out the ferocious bear, which will give you bear form, or you can make explosives, which I don't recall if there's a recipe or not from one of these guys. Was it this guy? No, there was one. You have to go either kill the bear for the bear form, or you have to defeat Clive the Firestarter to get the alchemy table and minor explosive box recipe. Clive the Firestarter, he's a boss over at the Bandit Sulfur Quarry, and if you defeat him, then you get those recipes. Then you can make an alchemy table, and then at the alchemy table, you can make a minor explosive box using sulfur, planks, and whetstones. Then you can blow up the door to the Bandit Stronghold. There's two doors. You can blow up one of them in order to get in there and go fight the boss. Those doors will respawn after like a day or two or something, so you have to get it in one go. And then after that, you'll defeat Quincy, and now you can make all this stuff. But not so fast, because in order to make the weapons at least, you will need iron. And the tailoring bench, actually, I don't quite remember offhand. Let me find here. No, tailoring bench you can do without the iron. Okay, tailoring bench, you could just go straight to your armor, which would probably be smart. You could if you want to. You just need planks, cotton, yarn, blood essence, which we'll get some of that in a sec. Okay, I'm going through the whole gear progression here. For the iron, though, there's one really good place to get it, and that is the Haunted Iron Mine. It's not the only place you can get it. You can find random iron nodes all over Dunley farmlands. They're few and far between, but they're just here. You'll be running around just like, oh, there's just a random iron node. They're all over the place. Same for Silverlight Hills. Same for Cursed Forest. Also, you can loot the Ancient Village, which is really high level. You'll die trying to do it, but you could loot and then die and then go grab your stuff and then get loot and then die and keep repeating. You can loot like the cabinets and end tables or whatever, the lootable objects there, and they'll randomly give you iron ore. Not a good way to get it. And then the iron mine, you can blow up boxes there and loot chests, and you can drop iron ore. Additionally, there's iron nodes there, which you won't be able to mine unless you got at least one of the upgraded versions of the weapon. So like the merciless crossbow or the merciless copper sword or the merciless copper mace. You got to get one of those from a book and get one of those slightly higher gear score ones if you want to blow up the iron nodes. Otherwise, you attack the iron nodes and it'll say your weapon's not strong enough. So you either got to do it the hard way of just looting boxes till you finally get enough iron ore, or you got to get a recipe from Farbane Woods in order for one of those merciless weapons. But once you do that, then you can get iron. Then you can take iron over to a forge, and I'm actually going to refresh my memory because it's been a while since I've been doing iron stuff. You'll need just iron ore. Nothing complicated. You just throw in the iron ore, get iron ingots. At this point in the game, you may want to make multiple smelters. I have over there, you see in the distance, like 4 smelters. That was from when I was at my iron grind, and it made it so I could do it faster because the iron takes forever to get enough of it. Once you get enough iron, then you'll be able to make the smithy. You'll need 200 blessings, 32 iron ingots, and 16 sulfur. You don't get sulfur. It's all over the place. These yellow rocks, you just break them, they drop sulfur. Put them into the furnace, you get sulfur, like refined sulfur. You can use it. Then you make the smithy. Now you'll be able to make your iron stuff. You put down a smithy, and you'll be able to make iron spear, axe, mace, reaper, all these new weapons you've seen before. And they'll use a ton of iron ingots. You're going to need a lot of iron at this point in the game. And they also will have those upgraded versions that you get from research. We got merciless iron of all the types. They use a random gem, and then the previous weapon, and then greater blood essence reinforced planks. Now, if you need greater blood essence, the easiest way is to convert from this recipe. And this recipe is unlocked by defeating Tristan the Vampire Hunter. He's level 46, so that's like the best long-term way to get that stuff to make those weapons if you need to make those weapons. The other thing is now you will be able to make the tailoring bench. And at first, you'll have hollow fang gear. It uses cotton yarn, leather, wool thread. And then just like the other one, you'll be able to make the merciless version if you get the research for it using scrolls from the Dunley farmlands or from villagers over in Brighthaven Woods. Villagers over, or not Brighthaven Woods, Silverlight Hills. I don't know what's the wrong one. Silverlight Hills. You can go to Brighthaven and kill villagers there, but watch out for the guards at that point in the game. So then, once you have those matches, you make those. Once you get the research, you can get that. And then later on, you'll also be able to unlock this dawnthorn stuff, and then its super equivalent, which we'll get to in a minute. So for this stuff, you'll need cotton yarn. You'll need wool thread. So you may want to put in the effort to unlock the loom, which is from this lady. She doesn't even fight. She just runs away and just tries to aggro a whole village on you. She will let you make the loom and give you the recipe for cotton yarn as well as a hunter's cloak. Give you a little more protection. Then you can make a loom. So loom, use plank, copper ingots, wool thread. And then from here, you can make wool thread, cotton yarn. Although I think you need to unlock the recipe for wool thread by also defeating a V-Blood boss. But either way, there's the recipes for it. The other way to get them, and this is generally the way that I get them, is just go to the Dunley farmlands. And I usually go to this way gate and just go to the villages and just go through there and just break every box and loot every chest and just make a route. I usually go here to here to here, and then here and here and here and here and here, and just go all the way across and then back to this way gate, depending on how your server set. Some servers won't let you teleport with resources on you, in which case then you'd have to run back to your base after you do that loot. And then repeat. And you'll randomly find cotton thread and wool, cotton yarn, wool thread, and all that stuff, and you'll eventually get enough to make this stuff. As for leather, there's a V-Blood boss for leather. It's an early game boss. It was, let's see if I can find it, Keenly the Frost Archer. Yeah, Keenly the Frost Archer lets you make a tannery, and which will let you make leather from animal hide. She is located at the Bandit Trapper camp over here. Well, then once you have those matches, you can make that stuff. If you get the recipe for the merciless stuff, it's just going to take iron plus the previous set in order to make those. Now you're moving along to the mid-game. All right, you've gone pretty far. But then after that, you're going to have to find the next boss in this list in order to move on to the next thing. Also, here was that wool thread recipe, by the way. It's Meredith the Bride Archer, who... Is this the one that roams Dunley farmlands? I want to say it is. There's also some other ones in here that are important. This one is very important. It's Leandra the Shadow Priestess, because she will give you the jewel crafting table. On top of the Scourge Pendant, which will give you a huge power spike if you get one crafted at this point in the game. It'll give you like 6 levels or something on your gear level, depending on where you were before. Depending if you got the researched one before the previous tier. But anyway, then you'll get the jewel crafting table, which is important for making jewelry later on. So don't skip this boss. This is one you'll also have to do to progress through the game. But then we go through here to another one, and we have in here various ones that don't really have anything for us until you get down to Octavian, the militia captain. Now, this guy, he will let you make an anvil, dark silver ingots, the dawnthorn regalia, and the dark silver weapons. So he's like your next tier unlock boss. He's level 58. You can find him, if I'm remembering this correctly, he's at the Bastion of Dunley in the Dunley farmlands. And you defeat this guy. Now you can make dark silver ingots. You can make all that gear. And you can make the anvil. So now, oh my god, you the viewer, there's so much to go through this in one single video, but that's the whole point, is just to show you the process. So, okay, now we can make the dawnthorn gear, which will use scales, pristine leather, and ghost yarn. Scales, generally speaking, are obtained from either putting fish into the devourer, or going to the cursed forest and defeating enemies there, or going to the cursed forest and just looting random stuff, and randomly maybe you'll find it. You can go to the spider cave, kill spider. Its scales are kind of a pain to get other than fish. You can do fishing though, and throw the fish over in the devourer, and they'll give some scales. So that's another way to get scales. The pristine leather, on the other hand, you're going to need pristine animal hide, which only comes from the cursed forest by killing enemies in the cursed forest. Alternatively, if you loot the ancient villages, the cabinets and dressers there and stuff, there's a chance you'll just get a completely refined, pristine leather. That can happen. And I think you can do it in Brighthaven the same way. You can randomly find it from like chests and cabinets in Brighthaven too. I'm pretty sure. It's been a few days since I did it, but I want to say yes. At least Brighthaven Square. I hope. If I remember that, I hope I'm right on that. It's just been so long. Okay. And then ghost yarn. There's a recipe for that. There's also a recipe for pristine leather. But ghost yarn, you can actually find standalone in the cursed forest. And again, maybe Brighthaven, I don't remember, but I know the cursed forest. In the ancient villages, there's loot stuff. If you can kill the enemies, kill the enemies. Sometimes maybe they'll drop it, but mainly just the cabinets and dressers inside of all the buildings. They'll drop ghost yarn. Then you'll be able to make this set. Alternatively, you could actually just unlock the recipes in here by killing Angora the Spider Queen, which unlocks ghost yarn, the ghost yarn recipe. Or if there was the pristine, I don't know, the pristine leather one, is it unlocked by default? I don't quite remember if it was unlocked by default or if it was from one of these bosses. I want to say it was actually just unlocked by default. So if that is the case, then that's the case, because I don't see it in there. At the tannery, there's pristine leather using fish oil and pristine hide. Again, pristine hide, cursed forest, high level enemies. Fish oil, putting fish in the refiner will give you fish oil. You'll also just find it randomly. Best way to get fish oil, go to Silverlight Hills, break boxes at the Brighthaven docks, and you will get crap tons of fish oil. Ridiculous amounts of it. You don't even need a farm at all. But we're still not done with everything here. So that'll get you through the dawnthorn gear, okay? Then there's the blood moon gear, there's the anvil, there's all this other stuff. So blood moon gear. You're going to need the previous set, and in order to get blood moon gear, you're also going to have to do research at an Ethereum, or whatever it's called, Aterium. I don't know what this stupid thing's called. And it's one of these bosses in here. I'm trying to remember which one here. One of these bosses will give you... It's actually a weaker boss. I'm pretty sure it's in here. Somewhere. Ah, here it is. Raziel the Shepherd. And this guy will give you the whatever. And he'll also give you this awesome corrupted artifact to craft, which if you get it crafted, then you'll be able to get more power spikes. So now you've got this thing. You can use schematics there, or high-level recipes from Brighthaven and Cursed Forest, potentially. Maybe Cursed Forest? I don't remember. I know Brighthaven, though, and the Silverlight Hills. You can get schematics, recipes there, turn them in there. And if you ever get lucky enough to get the recipe, then you'll be able to make the Blood Moon versions using the Dawnthorn previous pieces, as well as Imperial Thread, Silk, and Blood Essence. Now, Imperial Thread and Silk, same thing. You can unlock those recipes. Spider unlocks the Silk. The Imperial Thread was unlocked from this guy, this person, this thing. And then that's not really a good way to get it. Best way to get those materials is to go to Brighthaven Square and loot. There's two buildings. The one my mouse is pointing at right now, and there's one right here. And if you break into those, there's like cabinets and stuff for you to loot. There's also chests that spawn, and everything respawns every 24 hours, and just loot it again and again and again and again and again. And eventually you'll get all the Imperial Thread you could ever want, as well as enough Silk to get you your full set and repair it a few times. But you'll also need Primal Blood Essence, which leads to a pivot here, because you also need Primal Blood Essence for the Anvil. So let's go ahead and think about this Primal Blood Essence now. So Primal Blood Essence, two ways to get it. There's a recipe to turn exquisite hearts into it, or a recipe to turn greater blood essence into it. The greater blood essence is the way to go, because the only way to get exquisite hearts is from enemies above level 70, which at this point you will be struggling to farm enemies that are level 70 plus, especially because level 70 enemies tend to be in areas where they also have other enemies with them, so it's not just a simple farm, generally. So how do you get this recipe down here? Well, now back to the V-Blood bosses. So there's a V-Blood boss in here called Jade the Vampire Hunter, who roams the Dunley farmlands. Defeat Jade the Vampire Hunter, level 62, and you'll be able to make Primal Blood Essence from Greater Blood Essence. Jade the Vampire Hunter, again, roams the Dunley farmlands. Just erratically, the whole south side, just walks along the roads. You may encounter Jade the Vampire Hunter, or if you're high enough level, just obviously track her and then find her. Then you'll be able to make Primal Blood Essence. Then it's just a matter of farming the hell out of enemies and converting the Blood Essence into Greater Blood Essence, then the Greater Blood Essence into Primal Blood Essence, until you have enough to make the gear you want, or, where we're pivoting now, the Anvil, which is also going to use dark silver ingots and reinforced planks. So reinforced planks you'll find randomly in town. You can also go to the sawmill and use iron with planks in order to make it. But the main focus here is the dark silver ingot. So you go to a furnace. And now we have dark silver unlocked, because if you followed along this far, there was a boss. We killed Octavian, the militia captain, and he, in the process of even being able to build this anvil, we also unlocked this dark silver ingot recipe. So we'll need silver ore and scourge stone. Well, we have some issues. So first off, silver damages you when you carry it. So I highly recommend trying to craft something that gives silver resistance, or using the research desk to get a potion for silver resistance, something, just anything to give you a little bit. A little bit goes a long way, and especially for silver ore. Then you'll be able to carry it without any issues, or you can just suffer through it and try to get it done anyway, but it'll kind of suck. And then we need scourge stone. So first off, silver. This is the easy one. Go to Silverlight Hills. There's the Sacred Silver Mine. Go in there, mine silver. If your weapon's strong enough, you may need the researched version of the weapon. I don't remember how strong your weapon has to be. You can get it there. That's the only way to get it in bulk. If you only need a small amount for some reason, you can find it randomly in chests inside of Brighthaven. Only the top ones, though. Brighthaven Cathedral, Brighton Square. Sometimes you loot them, and it'll just have silver ore, like 100 of it or something, or 60 or 20 or something crazy like that. But really, you're just going to want to get a weapon strong enough to break the silver nodes in the Sacred Silver Mine, which I think the Merciless Iron is strong enough, if I remember right. So you just got to get one scroll recipe for a weapon, and then you're good to go, I think, if I remember this right. That's how you get the silver ore. Okay, enemies suck there. It's a pain in the ass to get, but you got to suffer through it. You'll get it eventually. Then what you do, although maybe you can, I think you might be able to also find silver randomly in the Cursed Forest. So you might just roam around. Don't quote me on that. Don't remember offhand. I want to say maybe, though, on that. But now we need the other ingredient, which is Scourge Stone. So there's a few ways to get it. There's a recipe, which probably was unlocked from a V-Blood boss over there, but I don't know. Just scroll through the list. I can't remember. If it's not unlocked, it's 100% a V-Blood boss that unlocks it. And then you can use whetstones, glass, and grave dust. Well, glass you can get from quartz. Quartz you can farm from the Mosswick village. There's just up in the top part, there's just tons of quartz. You can also find it at Dunley Monastery, but you'll be taking holy radiation damage while you're there, so be careful. And you can farm a ton of quartz and bring it back, turn it into glass. Now you've got the glass. The whetstones you can just find in boxes so frequently that if you just run around the Farbane Woods looting boxes and things, you'll have it in no time. You'll have a ton of it in no time. But if you really want to farm it, you can get stone dust from the grinder and grinding stone into stone bricks, and it's the byproduct. And then you just need copper ingots. But generally, just find it for boxes and things like throughout the game. You find so much, I have to just throw them away almost. And then you'll also need grave dust, which in my previous video about how to get scourge stones, or made something like that, I totally forgot all about it. You can go to the grinder, you can throw bones in and just get grave dust. Okay, now we got grave dust. Well, now we can make scourge stones. If you do all that, you can just make scourge stones. Cool, now we got scourge stones. If you want to do it another way, though, you can go to the Cursed Forest and loot these ancient villages. And the houses and the cabinets inside the houses can have scourge stones pretty frequently, actually. Like, if I go there and I loot that whole village, on average, I'll get, like, 5 scourge stones on average each time. And you can go once a day and try to do it. Now, it's kind of a pain. You'll die a lot trying to do it if you try to ignore the enemies and stuff, but you can do it that way too. And then you could get your scourge stones. Okay. All that out of the way. Now you know how to make the dark silver ingots. Cool. Got dark silver ingots. All right, let's go. Okay. So now we have the mats. Assuming you understand how to get reinforced planks, like I mentioned a minute ago, we can make the anvil. We already talked about Primal Blood Essence. If you skipped through the video, you missed it. We already talked about Primal Blood Essence. There's a recipe from Jade the Vampire Hunter. So then you can place down the anvil. All right, cool. Anvil. Now we go to the anvil. We got dark silver gear. So you got to farm even more dark silver, but now you know how. It's just inevitable. You'll get it eventually. And you need reinforced planks from the sawmill using iron and planks. All right. Then once you get the dark silver ones, if you are lucky enough when putting in research with schematics and books and things at the Ethereum or Ethereum, whatever it's called, you'll get the Sanguine versions of these things. And the Sanguine versions will take the previous weapon, but give it +3 gear level at the cost of 4 flawless gems, depending on what weapon it is. Like the mace uses topaz, the sword uses sapphire, the axes use ruby, the spear uses emerald. You know, you'll also need a whopping 4 primal blood essence, which is, what is that? 48 greater blood essence, which is 48 times 200 blood essence per weapon, if you want more than one. You'll also need 12 pristine leather, which we talked earlier about getting pristine leather. You can kill enemies in the cursed forest and then take them to the tannery with fish oil, or sometimes you just find pristine leather by looting the villages in the cursed forest. Cool. That's how you get pristine leather. Now you've got the best weapon you can possibly get for whatever version, whatever. I personally prefer the spear, for example. I have a Sanguine spear as my weapon that I repair and keep alive and use. And yeah, now your weapons are done. We can check that box. No more weapons. We talked about armor. We're done. The gear progression has been explained. If you watch this whole video, we explained everything except one problem. We haven't talked about jewel crafting. All right, so jewel crafting. Over here, that jewel crafting bench. Earlier I talked about there's a boss you fight and you unlock the jewel crafting bench. It's in the V-Blood bosses. Okay. Now with the jewel crafting bench. It'll also have all the old ones from the previous tiers as well in here, but there will be new ones depending on what boss you beat. One of the bosses we talked about unlocks the corrupted artifact, which is a decent power spike, but it's not the final power spike, but it'll tie you over. It'll give you a big power spike, and since damage in this game is relative to gear level, it's always important to try to keep that gear level up as fast as possible. So for this one, you'll need golden jewelry and spectral dust. Oh god, okay, well, golden jewelry is actually pretty easy. What you can do is you can go to Brighthaven Cathedral, take the radiation damage, ignore the enemies, just run through and loot the cabinets inside the church. When you first go to the church, to your left and right, there's a cabinet, one on each side. Loot those. If you die, you die. Make sure there's some way, like make a nearby base or something, and just run back in, grab your loot, and just keep running around. And if you die, you just come back in. If you die, come back in. Just keep doing that until you've looted the whole place. Then wait 24 hours and do it again. And that's like the fastest way to just get gold jewelry, just straight up. The other way, there's 2 other ways. You can also loot chests in Brighthaven Square randomly. Just sneak around in human form, try to loot chests like a secret agent. It's another way. Also, if you're strong enough, you can just kill you just kill all the enemies in Brighthaven Square. The villagers won't drop them, but the priests, the clerics, the paladins, I can't remember the other one. There's one more religious sounding one. They can drop golden jewelry. I think even the soldiers can. I can't quite remember. If they do, it's a rare drop, but they could, I think, drop golden jewelry. And you just kill them and farm golden jewelry. Bam, golden jewelry. Now, spectral dust, on the other hand. That one is a little bit different. So I actually have to remember, was it the furnace or was it the other building? It was not the furnace. So was it the grinder? Okay, it must be the grinder then for the spectral dust, which is unlocked from a recipe. Yeah, there's spectral dust. There's a recipe from a V-Blood boss, late game V-Blood boss, where you can use ghost crystal and gem dust to make spectral dust. Now, gem dust, you can take gems over to the Devourer and throw them in to get gem dust, or you'll find it randomly in boxes. You'll get plenty. It's pretty easy to get. The ghost crystal, on the other hand, you can go to the cursed forest and just run around, and they're all over the place. They kind of look like quartz, but they're a little different, and you just mine them with a strong weapon. Bam, you got your ghost crystal. You can put them in the grinder. You can get spectral dust. The other way to do it is go to the cursed forest and loot the ancient villages and the banshees, the like glowing white ladies in a dress. They will frequently drop spectral dust. Also, if you go to witch huts and kill the witch at the witch huts, they also will frequently drop spectral dust. So that's another way to get spectral dust. As for that spectral dust recipe, it's one of these super late game ones down here. I gotta try to find it. It's Foul Rot the Soul Taker, level 62, and he'll give you spectral dust, as well as recipe of the Phantom Veil, which will give you 15 of every resistance. Or alternatively, you get lucky and you find the Royal Veil of the Jester by looting Brighthaven Village like I did, and it was just like an RNG drop that I've only gotten one time ever in the history of me looting like 300 chests from there. Anyway, so that's done. Now you can make the corrupted artifact. Cool. Or you could have made these ones before it too, using Scourge Stone or whatever if you got the recipe. All right. Not done yet, though. There's one more step. Oh my god, there's one more step. Can you believe it? We're almost done. Okay. there's these shards. Each one's different. The way that you unlock those is either with a book or with schematics and getting lucky. There's only 3 versions. So you throw in schematics and just hit discover button, or you happen to just get the recipe in a book from looting a high level place like Brighthaven. Then you'll be able to make one of these 3 special jewels that are even stronger. So this one gives spell power, spell critical strike chance, spell critical strike damage, and minus 10% ability cooldown. This one's about physical damage and physical resistance. And this one is weapon attack speed and spell life leech and movement speed. Kind of the utility one, the magic one, and the physical one, physical fighter one. Each one of these will use flawless gems, so flawless sapphire, flawless amethyst, flawless ruby, and the 4 of them. You'll also need a corrupted artifact as a prerequisite. You'll have already had to make one anyway, so that's why I went over making this, because you can't skip it. Then you'll need gold ingots. Oh god. So it's not a one-step process to unlock gold ingots. It's a 2-step process. You will need to defeat Azariel, the Sunbringer. But you will not be able to beat this man until you defeat Wilfred, the Werewolf Chief. The reason is you need a Holy Resistance Flask, because Azariel, the Sunbringer, is in the highest damaging Holy Radiation zone in the entire game, none other than the Brighthaven Cathedral inside the church. So you have to have that Holy Resistance Potion going in order to fight him, otherwise you take 12 damage a second, which means you'll just die unless you can no-hit the boss. Okay, then what you'll do is you'll go in there, you'll fight him, you'll beat him. This is not a guide for him, I'll make a separate guide in the future for him, but you beat him, you get the recipe for the gold ingot. Oh my god. Alright, we're still not done. So now at the furnace, you can make gold ingots. In order to make 1 gold ingot, you'll need 8 golden jewelry and 8 sulfur. Now, sulfur is straightforward. You mine sulfur or get sulfur. We talked to earlier video. It's all over the place. It's a yellow rock. Break it, you get sulfur. Convert, sulfur, whatever. All right, cool. Now, the golden jewelry. We already talked about this. You got to farm Brighthaven Cathedral as much as you can. You can also find it in chests and from random high-level enemies in Brighthaven Square. And just really high-level enemies like 60+ can randomly drop it, generally speaking. Especially, maybe specifically humanoid 60+, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, maybe level 55+. I'm pretty sure V-Blood boss is level 55 and Dunley Farmless have dropped golden jewelry for him before. So you got to just painstakingly farm your golden jewelry, farm sulfur, put them together, make gold ingots, and then once you have 8 gold ingots, oh my god, and you'll get the flawless gems and the artifact you can make. And now flawless gems, if you don't know how to get flawless gems, you can find them randomly in chests in Brighthaven Square, Brighthaven Cathedral. You also, all over the Silverlight Hills, you'll find those gemstones, like stone. They look like a normal stone that gives you the material, stone. But they'll like gems sticking out of the bottom. Well, in this biome, you can find like the highest tier versions of those that have a decent chance of dropping flawless gems. And they're kind of rare, but you just run around and you'll see them all over the place when you're running around. Every now and then you see one, and you'll mine them, and you'll have a chance of getting flawless gems. Alternatively, again, you just loot chests and stuff in Brighthaven Square, which is also a good way to get them. And eventually, you'll get 4 of the same one that you want. Also, alternatively, one of the V-Blood bosses will unlock, early game V-Blood bosses will unlock the Gem Cutter, where you can upgrade gems. And then another V-Blood boss will let you upgrade the gems to flawless from the previous tier, which was just normal, whatever. Then you could just make the flawless gems. And then once you have all that, oh my goodness, you can make these. But would it surprise you if I said we're still not done? Because there are more ways to become powerful in this game beyond this. Okay, so there's consumables and there's soul shards. So consumables, you can see at the Ethereum, the highest tier, these you can have research desks, you can find them. The highest tier would be ones like the Potion of Rage, and you drink it and you get 8 physical power for 1,200 seconds, which, as a reference, the strongest weapon in the entire game has 28 physical power, so 8 is actually pretty significant. You can make them at the alchemy table, and they use water-filled bottle, Hell's Carry-On, and a Fierce Stinger. Cool. Fierce Stinger's a fish, by the way. All right. That's one way. Additionally, there's 3 bosses in the game that drop soul shards, and this is going to depend on your server. There's the soul shard of the Behemoth, there's the soul shard of the Winged Horror, and there's the soul shard of Solaris. And when you find one of these, if you can beat the boss, and you're on a server that allows multiples, you can put it on hotbar, and then for the appropriate number, press it, and it'll bring up like a build menu, And then you can place it like this one right here, the soul shard of the winged horror. And then you can hold F default, which is the default key to hold the harness power. And this one, for example, gives me 50 fire resistance and silver resistance. My spell power increases by 10, and my spell critical strike rate is increased by 5%. That's just the winged horror. So if you get all 3 of those, you can buff yourself even further. Now, some servers will only let there exist 1 copy of each of these. So if you're on a PvP server and they have it set to where there's 1 of each, that means you'll have to destroy the base of the person who has the soul shard that you want in order to claim it for yourself. Other servers will let there be unlimited copies, in which case you'll just have to go and defeat the boss. The bosses respawn in 24 hours. You just go and kill it. If someone else has killed it, you just come back 24 hours and kill it if you can. They're actually absurdly hard bosses. They are actually so hard to solo. If you're trying to do it solo, it's really hard. So be prepared. But if you can do that, then you can do these things, and then you can get even more powerful. Okay. And there's a way to get gear level 81. I'm not actually familiar with it. I don't know if it's from activating all 3 of those, or if there's some magical piece of gear that I'm not aware of still in this game after playing like 150 hours. But I'm supposedly there's 81. I'm not sure if that's true or not, if that was just a joke that someone made. Probably was real. I just don't know exactly which way you go about getting it. So that's gear progression in V Rising. It took me like 25 minutes to explain this to you because it's so bastardly complex in this game. Like, it's not complex, but explaining it to somebody who knows nothing is extremely complex. Like, you see, I mean, there's so many steps. Copper, then merciless copper, then this, and then merciless this, and then this, and then whatever, and then bloodthorn. But in order to do that, you got to get this recipe to craft this item, to make the blood press, to make the thing. And, oh, jeez, it's rough. Well, hopefully, this 25-minute video answered all your questions. I tried my best, guys. I tried my best to answer every single question anyone could possibly have about how to get to the next gear progression in this game. So hopefully you were able to find the appropriate part in the video, because I'm assuming you come here because you're like, what comes after copper? Or maybe you're like, what comes after iron? In which case, oh God, I hope you're able to find it in this obnoxiously long video, the answer you're looking for. Maybe you're, I don't know, maybe you're looking for iron and start off with copper and then you started skipping and then just gave up. I don't know. But hopefully you found the answer. I did my best, guys. So that's how gear progression works. That's how to go from level 1 gear score to level 80 gear score in V Rising.